What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Wednesday, March the 6th. It's the Dynasty Dugout show. Today is Dodgers Day. A ton of talent in the Dodgers farm system. I'm pumped to talk about it. I hope that you are too. Thanks for hanging out with me on your Wednesday morning. It's going to be a good day. We have a lot to break down. We also have a couple things to break down from spring training action. There was some fun stuff that happened yesterday, some things that I'm watching pretty closely that I think are pretty relevant for you to know. Off the top is Ryan Weathers. Ryan Weathers has been very impressive. I dug in a little bit more to what he's been doing, and man, it's really, really good. His fastball velo is up, like touching 99, like sitting 96. That sweeper looks incredibly nasty. Really, really good pitch there. He's commanding the ball much better. He's looked really sharp. And, whether he breaks the rotation with Miami or not, like, I think it's still a major question mark. But I will say that I do think that Ryan Weathers is going to be somebody that should be on your radar this year. This is another guy that I do want to hit on just very briefly. Tyler McGill. McGill's looked very sharp too. McGill is doing some really good things with the arsenal. He's throwing that splitter more. He's throwing a cutter now, and the results are showing with it. I think that Bill might just be a guy that gets into that rotation in New York and stays all year. We keep waiting on Tyler McGill to kind of put it all together. I think this might be the year that we finally see McGill get it done, and I'm pumped about that. Tyler McGill's got the stuff. He's very intriguing. So he's one that I'm watching out for really closely. Obviously, Jared Jones had another big day. Certainly a chance that he breaks camp in the Pirates rotation. I mean, who's stopping him at this point? There's people that can stop Jared Jones. Maybe Mitch Keller. That's it. But the rest of the rotation, I think it's pretty wide open for Jones. Carter had a big day. 2 home runs and a grand slam. Both homers off Logan Gilbert. Jackson Holiday bounced back. I wasn't going to say this, but I saw Jackson Holiday live down at spring training on Sunday. He looked actually pretty lost. He had like 7 swinging strikes. He struck out twice in 3 at bats. He had a little flare out to the foul territory, so he's 0 for 3. It was just a game, so I'm not going to look into that. We know he's a better player than that. But to see a guy rebound like this is substantial. When you see a player that struggles, they get the day off on Monday. They come back on Tuesday and they look like a completely different player, like the player we all know that Jackson Holiday can be. I'd say that's pretty substantial. He had a big game yesterday, homer shy of the cycle, 3 exit velocities north of 102.3. I thought that was huge as well. Double left the bat at 104.4. If you're questioning the power on Jackson Holiday, just know this. He had a 91 mile an hour average exit velocity last year. There's nothing to be worried about with the power. It's going to come. He's a young kid growing into himself. I'm very excited about Jackson Holiday, and that bounce back yesterday was huge. And that speaks a lot of his character, in my opinion. Graham Pauley continues to hit well. He had a 106.2 mile an hour exit velocity yesterday. He had 2 hits. I think that he's certainly pushing a chance to crack the Padres lineup pretty quickly. Jackson Churio, 3 for 3, 2 doubles. Big day for him. Reese Olson, I thought, looked really good against the Braves and struck out Albies twice. He battled back from some tough spots. Gavin Williams is featuring a new windup in an attempt to basically hold his velocity longer. And he's already got really good velocity, but he's working on something to try to keep the velocity deeper into starts and throw harder. So you look at that, it's like, okay, I think Gavin Williams could be in for a pretty big year. And lastly, Brady Singer. Singer's looked really good this spring. I know it's hard to buy back into Brady Singer, especially after what we saw last year. 2022 was a great year for him. He had a 3.23 ERA, 151 innings. And last year, it all fell off. He had a 5.52 ERA in 159. But he's put some work in on his arsenal this offseason, which is really good. The results have showed. I thought the slider shape looked really good yesterday. He threw 3 scoreless against the Cubs, 1 hit, no runs, 0 walks, and 3 strikeouts. So Singer, I think the biggest question is, will he throw a third pitch enough? last year, 93% in usage on the sinker and slider. I'd like to see him go to a third pitch more often. But I covered a ton of this, plus a lot more in the Dynasty Digest. You can read that on the site, dynastydugout.com. Everything you need to know every day from the action in the previous day. So I hope that you'll check that out. But we're here to talk Dodgers prospects. This is an insanely loaded farm system. So we're going to have to get through these guys rather quick. But man, I am pumped about this one. This is probably my favorite farm system in baseball. It doesn't have the high end talent, but it's deep, top to bottom, just loaded with talent. Let's get to it. Let's break it down. Starting at the top, I have Yoendry Vargas as my top prospect for Dynasty. I know he's not going to be the top prospect for real life purposes yet because he's only played in the DL. But this guy has fantasy superstar upside. You look at the profile with Yoendry Vargas, and I see a star player. He's got an elite frame at 6'4", 175 that he's already beginning to fill out. He's got great athleticism. He hits for power. He's stealing bases. And I know we don't want to put a lot of stock in the DSL performance, but when you look at a guy like this, that's it. Like you see a ball player and you see someone that has the potential, I think, to be a top 10 prospect by the end of 2024. Last year, he slashed 328, 423, 529, 20 extra base hits, and 19 stolen bases in the DSL, and 208 plate appearances. Really, really good stuff. He shows really strong plate discipline. He makes a lot of contact. He had one of the lower chase rates in the DSL. He walked 30 times. He struck out 31 times. This is a player that I just believe taps into a lot more power as he grows, as he continues to fill out this frame. This dude might be someone special. And I'm kind of banking on that. When you look at Yoendry Vargas, I'm in. I'm really excited about the potential of this guy and what he can do. And I think that you should be too. So I'm looking at Vargas and saying, this guy could be a 25 homer bat, maybe even more. He could steal 10 bases regularly as a pro. And that's even like factoring in some slowing down a bit. I mean, posted a 149 BRC plus last year. This is the type of player that I think skips the complex. I would not be shocked if he skipped the complex and kind of went the Josue De Paula route that the Dodgers did, send him straight to single A. And, you know, it's possible with the complex league starting earlier that he does start there, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he starts in single A. Regardless, I think that Yoendry Vargas is someone that you should be investing in everywhere. As is this next guy, Josue De Paula, who, interestingly enough, like it feels like people were down on after his year as a young 18-year-old. He actually, one of the youngest players in full season ball next to Ethan Sax. He skipped the complex, he went to single A, and he performed. I mean, I have a hard time looking at performance and saying, like, it wasn't good. Like, Josue De Paula was a disappointment. I mean, he slashed 280, 396, 372. Okay, the power wasn't there, but he had 19 extra base hits and 2 home runs. I understand that you want to see more power out of this profile. But from July forward, he slashed 306, 427, 397. He won as much as he struck out. I still want more pop, but if you saw the other day, he got his first major league spring training at bat. And what did he do? He homered to the opposite field. I think that if you want to poke a hole in De Paula's game, it's probably that he's a little passive. His swing rate was really low. He doesn't chase, which is awesome, but the swing rate was just a tad low. And ultimately, I think that could have hurt him just a bit. Got deeper into counts, led to some strikeouts. He didn't get great pitches to hit, but he still made contact at a 79% clip as an 18-year-old in full season ball, a young 18-year-old at that. You look at the frame, he's 6'3", 185. There's plenty of room to fill out. And I know this doesn't happen with everybody. I know sometimes you have players that just don't. You look at these young frames and you think, well, this guy will fill out and have power at some point. But I really believe in the Dodgers' development. I really believe in their ability to condition this guy. The Dodgers do everything exceptionally well, and I believe DePaula is going to get on the right routine. He's going to fill out. He's going to add weight. He's going to add power to what is already a great profile. When you look at power, it's going to come. He's got some. He's a decent runner. I think he slows down, but ultimately, the question mark is his glove. I think everybody wants to poke a hole and look and say, "Oh, the fielding percentage was terrible." It wasn't a lot of attempts in right field. I've watched the film, and I think the defense is actually good. I won't say I think it's average, maybe a tick below average, but I think DePaul is serviceable enough, and I think that he can get the job done in right field, even if he moves to first base. I don't care. This dude's got excellent contact skills. He's got excellent OBP skills, and he's got pop. So I'm in on Josue De Paula. I'm buying in a dynasty league because I think that hate is going a little far for some. Not all. I think a lot of people are still in, but I'm still very much in. As is this next guy, Dalton Rushing. Rushing was an interesting player because he spent 2 years, his first 2 years of college at Louisville, behind Henry Davis. His junior year of college, he broke out in a massive way. He had 23 homers. He slapped 310, 470, 686. And he was a second round selection. He had an excellent debut in 2022. He was the best performer of any draft in that year. He hit 402, 522, 740. He had 8 home runs in 30 games. He had big exit velocities, low chase rates. And then last year, he didn't really perform like we thought. I'm not worried about him at all because you look at the underlying data, it's really good. The power still comes really easily. He had a 105 mile an hour 90th percentile. I think the power's plus here. He hit plenty of balls over 110. He chased at just 15% of pitches out of his zone, which is elite, like chase rates. So we're talking about plate discipline that is really, really good here with Dalton Rushing. I think he's going to be an elite OBP asset. He also makes good contact. I mean, he had 75% contact rate last year, which is a much better indicator of the kind of hitter he is versus a 228 batting average. I don't think that's a good indication of who Dalton Rushing is as a hitter, but the contact shows a little bit better. I don't think he's going to hit 300. No, but I think he's going to hit 270. I think he's going to give you a 400 OBP pretty regularly. I think he's going to get to big power. I think we see Rushing at some point this year. The question is where? There's not a great fit for him. I mean, the reality is that he's blocked. A lot of prospects are blocked in the system. Will Smith's at catcher, Freddie Freeman at first base. Those are the natural positions Rushing can play. We'll see how it all plays out, but Dalton Rushing is going to be a really good hitter, wherever he is. Whether it's in LA, whether it's somewhere else, I firmly believe in Dalton Rushing. Let's talk about River Ryan. River Ryan has soared up boards this offseason. He has gotten a ton of attention, and rightfully so. He's a little older for a prospect, but let's look at the kind of profile that he is, and I think it kind of explains it a little bit. He began his career at Division II Pembroke, which is not far from me. He was a two-way player. He was primarily a reliever and a middle infielder. And what he did make in college, he threw 141 pitches. Bulldog mentality. Their athletic director actually told me that he refused to come out of that game. Like, they tried to take him out. He refused. He threw a complete game, 9 innings, 141 pitches. And he was not willing to come out. He wanted to finish that game. And they got the win. Padres draft him 11th round. They actually draft him as a hitter. He's strictly DH. Rookie ball, he's traded to the Dodgers. Everything changed. The Dodgers took the bat out of his hand. They saw the potential on the mound, and they began to work on that development. So we're looking at a year and a half, 2 years of development in the Dodgers org of pitching, basically. In 2022, he had a really successful year, I'd say, pitching. And then in 2023, he tossed 104 innings, the 3.8 ERA in Double and AAA, 110 strikeouts to 46 walks. I probably wouldn't put a ton of stock in just the strict performance because I think River Ryan is much better than The ERA suggests fastball, mid 90s, 15 inches of IVB, 8 inches of running action. So it's not a high riding fastball, but it's kind of a deceptive fastball, I say. It plays up because he gets really good extension on his frame. It's a very athletic frame, athletic delivery. The extension plays well, and the fastball plays up past the mid 90s, in my opinion. The slider gets a lot of sweep at 15 inches pretty regularly, which is a big sweeper, and sits in the upper 80s. He throws a changeup, throws a curveball. I look at this arsenal, and I think the Dodgers did something here. They did their thing. They found a guy with potential stuff, and they converted him. I mean, it. I look at River Ryan, and I think that it's completely justified that he is moving up boards so significantly this offseason. I can look at the age, you can ding him for that. But he was later in the game becoming a pitcher. I think he's got all the upside in the world to be a regular starter in Los Angeles, which is pretty high praise because the Dodgers don't put anybody in the rotation. The Dodgers, to step on this field and be a starter for them, you really have to be an above average to plus player. An average player isn't stepping on the field in Los Angeles. I think that speaks to the volume about who River Ryan is and what I believe about it. So River Ryan, certainly somebody to believe in here in the strides he's made. Gavin Stone's somebody that I'm not out on. I think he just jumped off the bandwagon real quick after last year. He was the best pitcher in the minors in 2022. He had a 1.48 ERA across 121 innings with 168 strikeouts. He made it to AAA. And I know the performance in 2023 was a little bit disappointing, but I still think there's some other things going on with Stone. I still believe in the profile. He's a strong athlete. He moves well. He moves fast on the mound. Keeps hitters on their toes. The changeup is the bread and butter. And obviously, with the changeup, you look at the profile, it's like dominant changeup profiles succeed in the minors. It just works. You can dominate hitters at the lower levels with a good changeup. And that's what Gavin Stone has. He has a 70 grade changeup. You look at the rest of the arsenal, yeah, I mean, could the fastball be a little better? Sure. I think the shape is still a bit questionable, but he sits 94 to 95. I think with some tweaks in the movement profile, this fastball could play. I think the sinker tunnels really well. Actually, they play really well off each other. The first team plays better up in the zone, but the changeup's obviously going to be an elite pitch. Stone really does have a true 5-pitch mix. He's occasionally throwing a curveball. The sweeper, the slider's a good pitch. He uses a cutter to kind of bridge the slider fastball gap there. And I do just really believe in Gavin Stone still. He's a high floor arm. He's made his major league debut. He's gotten beaten up some majors, which I think is good because I always believe that adversity introduces a player to themselves. A lot of these guys have never been challenged at any point of their life. These players that play at this caliber have dominated high school, they've dominated college, they've dominated the minors. So for Stone, I think it was a good challenge for him. He knows now what to work on. Many arms struggle in their pro day or the MLB debut. I'm confident that he will bounce back. That's another pitcher I like. Let's talk about Eduardo Quintero, who was with Yoendry Vargas in the DSL this year. He originally signed as a catcher, $300K bonus, but strictly played outfield in the DSL. This guy is an elite athlete. He moves really well. He had a very solid performance in the DSL, 359, 472, 618 slash with 5 home runs, 27 extra base hits in 49 games. He was one of the top performers in the entire DSL last year, and he stole 22 bases in 20 attempts. He showed good feel for contact, struck out just 16% of the time, while walking 15%. So nearly identical strikeout to Walgreens. And while we do want to be careful with DSL data, I will say you can argue that he's a above average hitter in contact skills, even with the DSL factor in. I think that you see this guy growing a little more, adding a little more to his frame. I think it's reasonable to think he can be a 20 home run bat at peak. I think it's still 30 bases at peak. Like, this is the kind of athlete that we are talking about with Eduardo Quintero, just a really special athlete. The abilities looked really good in center. I think he's gonna stick there. Maybe this is a guy that has 5 tools. I say that pretty lightly. I don't throw that around often, but if the power does develop, this guy could be special. We'll know a lot more about him. He'll be stateside. He'll be in the complex. Maybe even get some time in single A Rancho Cucamonga. But I really believe that Eduardo Quintero is a guy that could take off. That I am very, very excited about. So keep an eye on him. I think he's one to watch very, very closely. This is this next guy, Andy Pajes. I think Pajes spends a significant portion of the year in Los Angeles. I had wrongly faded him last season, just more based on the fact that it was like the out of sight, out of mind thing, because he missed most of the year with a torn labor. He hit well in his 34 games, 277, 425, 482, 3 home runs in 34 games. But then just after the promotion to AAA, torn labrum sucked. But torn labrums are scary. But Andy Pye has just bounced back this spring and hasn't looked like he's missed a beat. The power is there. Paez looks like a type of player to me that could potentially step in this lineup and just be a guy. Prior to 2023, this is substantial. He cut 25 pounds to get in better shape, and he improved his contact skills. He had a 78% contact rate. I know it's a small sample that we're talking about last year, 34 games, but that's a substantial jump. He looked like a better athlete. He moved better. All these things are very good signs. He doesn't chase often at all. He posts really high OBPs. He has a career 378 OBP in the minors. I put in my write up on him that I thought that kind of the future value would hinge on how he returned from labrum surgery, but he hasn't missed a beat. He's looked really good this spring. And to me, Paez looks like a guy ready to step into a major league lineup, which I know is crazy, but I really believe in this profile. I really think that Paez can step in and excel as a big power bat. I am really excited about what Paez brings to the table. I think this is the year we finally see him put together. Maybe it's in Los Angeles. I know he starts the year probably in AAA, but I'm excited to see Paez in LA. Nick Frosto, he's going to fall down my board a little bit. Unfortunately, he had TJ. He's going to be sidelined for most and all of 2024, actually. So that's obviously a concern. Actually, I'm sorry. He needed TJ. He missed 2022. And then he had an issue this year. I think may have had TJ again. I was just questioning myself as I looked at the write up. He had labrum surgery, which obviously not so great for a pitcher, but you got to have TJ and labrum. I had kind of come around a lot on Nick Frosto, being a guy that I thought could step in this rotation and do some damage. Maybe if he pitched in the bullpen, it plays up even more, but it'll be wait and see now for Frosto as we now have seen him have TJ in 2022 and now labrum surgery last offseason. So he is a wait and see mode. This guy is not. Kyle Hurt. Hurt is ready to pitch in this rotation. Maybe he pitches in the bullpen. Maybe he pitches as a closer. I think Kyle Hurt can fit any of these molds. I thought the Dodgers did exceptionally well to get him in that deal that they got with Dylan Floro in that trade. The Marlins drafted him in the 5th round. They traded him, and Hurt just excelled in Los Angeles. He put things together in 2022. He had I think he had the highest strikeout rate of any minor leaguer last year. 152 strikeouts in 92 innings with a 3.91 ERA. His fastball sits 95 regularly, and it's even touching higher than that. Good life, a really low vertical approach angle. He generates a lot of whiffs with his pitch. Changeup, best pitch in the arsenal, upper 80s. Good IVB separation from the fastball, and like 10 plus inches of fading action regularly. Hurt also throws a slider in the upper 80s with a good bit of horizontal movement, 10 plus inches, and he throws a curveball sitting in around 80 miles an hour with a lot of downward action. Break. He threw more strikes last year, which was the question mark. He set around league average from a strike throwing like percentage, 63% right around league average. He also had a 36% CSW, elite, 39% strikeout rate, elite. I mean, you look at his profile, I think that Kyle Hurt is a hard worker. I think he's going to develop into somebody that is very useful for the Dodgers as soon as this year. We saw him debut. I mean, I think he can fit multiple roles for the Dodgers. So Kyle Hurt is one that I'm excited about the potential here, what he can bring to the table. I think that you see Hurt provide very useful innings for the Dodgers this year. And so another pitcher I want to hit on who they traded for this offseason is Jackson Ferris. I saw Ferris earlier last year. He's one that is pretty interesting profile. Former second rounder, ended up being a steal. He was an overslot guy. The Cubs kind of babied him. Like he was throwing a couple innings at a time, building up. But he did complete 5 innings twice down the stretch, and they were both exceptional starts. The Arsenal, he's a 6'4" guy with a tough slot to pick up, 93 to 95 fastball, pretty deceptive as well. He throws a good curveball in the mid 70s. Slider was a newer pitch that he debuted, good sweeper. I think you profile and you say, all right, the biggest question mark with Ferris that's keeping it from being a high end pitching prospect is simply this: it's the command and the strike throwing ability. He will need to throw more strikes. And you look at the profile, everything looks really good. It checks a lot of boxes. But his strike percent was sub 60% last year, which is questionable. And he had a 14% walk rate. Stuff is good. Command control will need to improve for Ferris to be a viable starter. But in the Dodgers organization, I 100% believe that this is something that can take place and happen. We see the Dodgers develop pitchers like no other. There's no reason to think that this cannot happen here with Jackson Ferris, who was a great buy for them, in my opinion. Maybe a trade for somebody they didn't have room for on their roster, and they got talented guys in the farm system. We'll talk about the other guy pretty soon. But let's keep going down the list here. Talk about a couple of more names. Peyton Martin is an extremely exciting arm. I know Peyton Martin has gotten a lot of love. Martin's just somebody that randomly caught my eye when he was still in high school, because my wife's high school, actually. And, I was doing my research for FYPDs, looking at the draft. I'm like, Peyton Martin, West Forsyth High School. All right, so I started digging in. It's like, all right, I think he might be the steal of the 2022 draft at this point. 17th rounder. Pitched a very high level last year, full season, which he didn't pitch a ton. 39 innings at single A, Richard Kamanga. He had 48 strikeouts with a 2.04 ERA. He's a little bit of a smaller frame. He's 6 foot, 170, but the fastball consistently 95, 96 range. He touches 98 with a lot of life up in the zone. High carry fastball, gets a lot of swing and miss. He's going to have to command it better, but stuff is there with the fastball. Slider, mid-80s pitch, touching 89. It's got really late bite, downward action, so it's like playing off the fastball well. It's just diving off the board last minute. He throws a changeup to lefties. I think he could benefit from a upper 80s offering, maybe a cutter, maybe a harder slider. We'll see. But I think that you could see him having this bridge gap between the fastball and the slider. Slider's in mid-80s. If he throws a cutter, I think that would be huge. I do think Martin is a very good athlete. He repeats his mechanics extremely well. He threw strikes at a high clip, 65%. It's great. He did not pitch after July 7th last year. Hope is that he returns this year healthy, and it's nothing too serious. I like Peyton Martin a lot, too. I'm very excited about what he brings to the table, and I wouldn't be shocked if he really takes off this year, given health. So Peyton Martin, keep your eye on him. Kind of the opposite guy, and Diego Cartaya here. Peyton Martin's the new guy with buzz. Diego Cartaya is the former guy with buzz. It just hasn't really gotten as much buzz recently. And for decent reason. He signed in 2018, one of the top guys in the class, got a 2.5 bonus, and he was kind of billed as one of the top catching prospects in the game for a long time. The shine began to wear off in 2022. We saw some contact concerns with him. And then 2023, the downfall happened. In Double A, he was a 21-year-old, gave him a bit of a pass, but slash 189, 278, 379, he did hit 19 home runs. The power has never been the question here. He's always had a really powerful swing. The ball just jumps off the bat. But now we're looking at 2 straight seasons of contact rates below 70%, which is a little bit concerning in my book. So I think that we need to see him show increased contact. Cartaya is still young. I think there's potential to dream on because the plate skills are good. He's going to walk and get on base. He's going to hit for power, but he will need to cut down, swing, and miss. That's the biggest question mark. I think 2024 will be a very telling year for Diego Cartaya. So seeing what he does this year, I think will tell us a lot about the player that he can be moving forward. And I, for one, will be watching very closely on Cartaya. A couple other guys in the system. Obviously, there's a lot of guys to cover. We'll try to get through all of them. Kendall George, who they drafted this year, I'm very high on after reevaluation. Like, I think he surprised some people going 36th overall. Like, he was the guy that they were targeting in the second round, but they didn't make it to their pick in the second round. They loved him enough to jump on him. Then the pro sample, really good. I mean, you look at what he did. 28 games, he showed off the 80 grade speed. He slashed 370, 458, 420 with 17 stolen bases. He's a pretty selective hitter. He's a high contact hitter. 81% contact last year in a small sample. I think it's a really, really good profile. Currently, not a lot of power in the game, but I think there is fantasy intrigue. He does bring speed. He does bring contact. I think that he could grow into the kind of player that we've seen Victor Scott become. That's why I see when I look at him. Victor Scott's now developed into one of the most buzzy prospects that everybody wants to have because he's got the speed, he's got the defensive ability, he's for contact, and he's gotten into 10 home run pop, in my opinion. I think Kendall George can get there. And if he does, this is a very exciting player. I'm pumped about Kendall George and watching him this year. This is this guy who I think pitches in the major league rotation. That is Landon Knack. Landon Knack's kind of been, a guy that just flies under the radar. When I saw him in the AFL live for the first time in 2022, I thought he was more impressive than Bobby Miller. And I saw them both pitch piggyback like twice. And I thought Knack looked better than Miller. We've seen the guy Miller's become, but Knack's a guy that just can be very solid. He's older, so he doesn't really get the love. But in 2023, he had a 2.51 ERA across 100 innings, 99 Ks, 30 walks. The fact that he does it low 90s, I do think it plays up a little more. That's 17 inches of IV, 9 inches of run. The slider, most used secondary, low to mid 80s, has more vertical, but he does miss bats at a high clip. He focuses primarily on that four-seam slider, but he does mix in a cutter. He will throw a changeup with nice fading action. He throws strikes at a high clip. So Landon Knack might just be a really sneaky arm in this org who never really gets the love that he deserves, but just comes up and pitches. We've seen the Dodgers have guys like that year over year. And this might be the guy, Landon Knack. I think the floor is really high. He just has a chance to come up and pitch extremely well. This other guy, there's so many arms in the system. Justin Robleski, I think is very similar, very underrated. 11th rounder out of Oklahoma State. He had his 21 innings in 2022. People that liked him enough really saw the potential in the breakout in 2023, which is exactly what happened. He pitched high A Great Lakes at 2.90 ERA, 102 innings, with 109 strikeouts to 35 walks. By the end of the year, the fastball ticked up. Throughout the year, the thing kept improving. And we saw him sitting 95 to 97, topping out at 99 with a really good ride up in the zone. This is a lefty. the way, that's doing this with really good stuff. He reaches the upper 80s with a slider, sometimes two plane break. It's a really hard pitch to pick up due to his release point. It's really, really good secondaries because the slider and the curve both have some really nasty movement on them, and they're distinct pitches. He throws a changeup with fade. He throws a cut. He has 5 pitches, and he's a really, really good athlete. He had issues throwing strikes, but that's also something that improved. While the fastball velo improved last year, so did the strike throwing. He landed 64% of his pitches for strikes, which is an above average rate. I think it is slightly above average. The 63% mark is average for minor leaguers. Seeing that right above is really good. This next guy, we don't know anything about other than what we've been told because we haven't seen him pitch. That's Hun Siak Jang. Jang was projected to be the top pick in the KBO draft, but he decided to sign with the Dodgers for $900K in August of 2023. He's young. He has no professional experience. But when the Dodgers make a move like this, you should pay attention. From reports, these are strictly reports. I haven't seen much on him to prove otherwise, but the reports that I've been given and seen, 4 pitches, fastball in the 93 to 95 range, touch upper 90s on occasion. He throws a lot of strikes. The velocity probably could tick up given that he's 6'4", 200. So he's got a frame that you just kind of dream on and think that, man, Jang could really, really take that step forward with velo. From a breaking ball standpoint, it's a power slider in the mid 8, high spin, good sweep. The curveball sits in the upper 70s with downward action. Reports do say that he needs to work on the changeup development a bit, but if it does come along, this could be a very, very good arsenal. Some reports say he doesn't throw, but he's been a consistent strike thrower throughout his amateur career. I think it's really hard to put much projection on this guy right now. We will see him pitch professionally this year. I think it'll be very telling. I think people are going to be very, very excited with Hung Siak Jang, an arm they signed last August for $900K. A lot of potential here in that arm. So I'd watch very, very carefully with him. Talk about another upside guy. This is the guy they signed in January in the international class. Emil Morales. I'd get to know this name pretty well. The Dodgers do extremely well on the international side. And I don't think Morales is going to be any different. We saw Joe Andrew Vargas have a great year in the DSL right after signing. I think we're going to see this with Emil Morales. Some reports I've gotten recently have been really, really good on what Morales brings to the table, his potential, and there's a lot to like here from a hit and power perspective. He's a good athlete. I think Emil Morales is the guy that's highly underrated in this international class, the one that could take off and just be a stud. I have him as my number 2 guy for this international class, just behind Leo DeVries, and that should speak a lot of volume. Everything that I've been given and seen with Emil Morales is very good. I'm buying him everywhere I can in dynasty leagues and believing that he might be the guy that just takes off like you Andrew Vargas did last year. So I am in. Underrated. Let's talk about this. Austin Goff. He seems like another underrated find. Undrafted in 2021. Dodgers signed him. He has a really good year at single A and high A in 2022. And then he took off last year. Give a props to Mason McRae, who's now with the Red Sox. Mason McRae was on this guy well before anybody else. Gothier had a big year in 2023. Slash 316, 435, 476 in high A and double A. Hit 12 home runs. He had 46 extra base hits, and he stole 19 while walking more. He struck out. This is a very high contact hitter. Made contact 82% of the time. Very low chase rates. I think that this guy could be special. Once he's on base, he scores a lot of runs. 111 runs, trailed only Jackson Holiday last year, and his 151 WRC plus was the best in the minors. He's versatile. He can play all over the infield. If Gothier's going to crack the Dodgers team and play at any point, it's going to be through his versatility. The hit tool's good. The OBP is good. if the power develops a little bit, I think we're looking at a really, really fun player here in Austin Gothier. I think he's very underrated. I also think Jake Geloff is a bit underrated and was for this draft class. This is Zach's younger brother. He had a great career at Virginia, 48 homers, 61 games in Virginia, and he had 329, 429, 680 slash. The exit velocities really good. 91 mile an hour average exit velocity and a 107 mile an hour ninth percentile in college. Obviously, that's with metal. Those will regress a bit, but still very good power in this profile. Good discipline. Didn't chase a ton out of the zone. The overall contact rates, were a bit questionable. 76%, and they ticked down to 70% in pro ball last year. So that's something to keep an eye on with Jake Geloff. I do like the profile. I do believe that he is a bit undervalued. The Dodgers did really well at this pick, getting Geloff. So keep an eye. I think he can move pretty fast through this system. Ronan Kopp, massive human being. 6'7", 250, just a hulking presence on the mound. Massive extension, high 90s fastball, plays up even more due to that extension. He had tossed 72 innings in 2023, and he had a sub-3 ERA. He had 107 strikeouts, just 50 walks. The concern is those walks. That's the biggest concern in the profile is the strike throwing. Everything looks really good, but when you're walking near 17% of hitters and throwing strikes at a 58% clip, I think there might be some serious bullpen risk here. Saw him in the AFL. I am intrigued by the stuff, but I'd be very intrigued if he would throw a bit more strikes. Kopp has the potential to be a starter. He's going to have to make some improvements. But if he's a reliever, he could be a very high leverage reliever that is just incredible out of the back end of the bullpen. And it could lead to him being a very, very good potential closer. They don't throw that on many guys, but this is a prospect that I think could close. That I am very, very intrigued by. So watch Ronan Kopp. If he throws more strikes this year, maybe he can be a starter. At the end of the day, this might likely be a reliever, but a really good one at that. Maddox Bruns, I think, is still kind of questionable at this point of who he is. He was a first rounder in 2021, struggled a bit in his first full season in 2022, but he went to drive line in the offseason of 2022, and we saw improvements in 2023. 97 innings, a 3.99 ERA with 126 strikeouts. But like Kopp, there's a big red flag, and it's walks. 67 walks. That's very concerning. He hit 10 batters as well. The strike rate is actually better than Kopp's at 61%, but his walk rate was very high. Bat missing ability there, we saw that. 31.5% CSW and a near 16% swing and strike rate. It's a mid-90s fastball, getting up to 98 from Kopp runs. It gets a lot of arm side run out of the left side. It's away from righties. He runs in on lefties. The curve slider, both hard pitches to pick up on for hitters. They've got good deception. Slider in the mid-80s. It gets on hitters pretty quickly. He's comfortable throwing it to lefty and righties. Curveball fluctuates, mid to upper 70s. Some good traits on it. And the changeup is pretty good as well, but it's a decent fourth offering right now. At the end of the day, much like Kopp, we will need to see what Maddox Bruns can do with the command and control. Those improve? All right. We're cooking with something here with Bruns. So keep a close eye on him and see what he does this year. There's a couple guys that I think are big helium guys that we could be talking about, top 5 in the system and like top 100 guys everywhere for long. First one is Dairon Lorenzo. He is a massive catcher. He signed for only $30K back in 2021, but he has outproduced that bonus already. 2023, 24 homers, 50 extra base hits across 94 games in single A, while slashing 273, 400, 562. I think he picks his spots really well. He's a disciplined hitter. He has a low swing rate, low chase rate, which all leads to a high walk rate. no surprise, walked in a 17% clip. The concerning thing with Lorenzo, I think, is just the contact at this point. He ultimately has a 66% strikeout rate, or six, not strikeout, 66 contact rate. That would be very bad if that was strikeout. 66% contact rate last season, but he's still young, and I think he can still improve. And the damage on contact is just absolutely insane. You look at the damage that he did when he made contact. All right, this is an absurd profile. And I honestly have probably been pretty low on him. And I think that's something I've had to correct. If you look at my Dodgers write up back in the fall, he was low. And rightfully so. I've adjusted that and corrected it based on the data I've gotten. He had 413 x Woba last year and a 430 x Woba on contact. Those are absolutely nuts. He has special power. There's no denying that. But the end zone contact was fine. It's around 80%. So it kind of counteracts that low open contact rate. People really, really love him. The reports internally have been really good. And the contact rate hasn't been a worry as much for people because the damage that he does when he makes contact. So Lorenzo is somebody that I think flies upwards, maybe a consensus top 100 guy this year, and somebody that I myself have corrected a rank on and much higher on after the reports I've gotten from people internally that just really speak highly of this guy. So another guy that could move up, Alexander Albertus. He's a young, versatile infielder from Aruba. He signed in 2022. He was kind of undersized shortstop, but he's grown. He's filled out the frame. He's remained a really good athlete. Done some really good damage every stop he's been at. Last year at the complex, 310, 471, 468, 5 home runs and 170 plate appearances. He did swipe 9 bags as well. The swing, and I know this is not original. Somebody posted this on Twitter, but the swing is kind of reminiscent of Mookie Betts. The big leg kick. He gets a lot of coil. He has really good bat speed. But he does show good strike zone awareness too, while having a lot of moving parts with the big leg kick and such. He walked 38 times in 2020. Struck out just 19. Strikeout rate was barely north of 11%. Albertus will be in full season ball this year, and Albertus might just break out. I'll be watching him very, very closely and see if he be a next breakout in the Dodgers door. It would not shock me one bit if this guy breaks out and becomes a stud. He has all the makings of it. That's Alexander Albertus. Let's keep moving. Guy they drafted this year, Brady Smith, third rounder by the Dodgers this year in the 2023 draft. Prep arm, 6'2", 177. So they kept him away from his commitment to Virginia Tech. Fastball already up to 94 at 18 years old. Shape has been inconsistent, but I believe the Dodgers and their great pitching development will make this thing work. It's already above average to plus. Below, can it get better? Absolutely. The changeup development has been huge. I mean, to have a changeup like him as a prep, I think is rather impressive. He has good arm speed on it. He sells it well. It falls off the map. He spins a slider and curve really well. Brady Smith, somebody that I want to bet on. Because when I look at this profile and I look at what the Dodgers do with arms, I'm all in, baby. Let's go with Brady Smith. I think there's a breakout here. There's a potential for a breakout here with Elias Medina. With Medina, he signed for $177K last year, and he immediately hit the ground running DSL. He is aggressive, but he made it work. He put a ton of balls in play last year, slash 313, 381, 553, with 7 home runs and 19 stolen bases. Stole 16 bases in the DSL. He's a bit undersized, but he's gotten to power as a 17-year-old, and there's no reason to think that he cannot grow into more power. Medina is somebody that I want to invest in everywhere. I think his stock only rises as he gets stateside, as he plays full season ball. He's a speedy, versatile infielder who may just get some more pop than we think. I'd watch very closely on what happens with Elias Medina. This guy, Yiner Fernandez, which is kind of interesting the route they're going with him. He's a catcher that is versatile enough to play second base. Reminds me of somebody else that used to be in the Dodgers org. That's Austin Barnes. Fernandez is a little smaller, 5'9", 170. When I saw him in the DSL, he was strictly playing second base. Honestly, like he looked a little bit smaller than 5'9". I'm curious because he was playing shortstop in the TS. I mean, I said DSL, the comp. I'm sore. The AFL, man, I've been talking so much about these Dodgers prospects. The AFL, I did not go to the DSL and see him. I saw him in the AFL, but I thought he did some good things. He posts high walk rates. He has good contact rates. 2023, he walked 11% of the time, strike out 15%, contact rate north of 80%, and he had 6 home runs and 23 extra base hits. In general, what I saw with Fernandez is he's kind of just hitting the ball where it's pitched. He's not trying to do too much. He's making contact. He's getting on base. I think he may have more of a real life appeal than a dynasty appeal. But I think that the versatility here for the Dodgers is something to keep an eye on. It's something that they like ultimately. And I don't know. I look at Fernandez and say, all right, this is the kind of mold that they want and that they can develop. The crazy thing is the Dodgers are so stacked that we've talked about like 25 names. I still have like 25 more I want to talk about. But we're running out of time. Quick hit on a couple of guys. Zaire Hope, who they received this offseason in the trade with Jackson Ferris from Michael Busch. Somebody that I want to talk about. Two-way guy. I don't think he pitches, but he's got a really good bat. He's a great athlete with big speed and power potential as well. I love the potential with Zaire Hope to really move upwards. The athleticism is off the charts here. Very, very good profile. I want to bet on this all day long, and I think the Dodgers do too, which is why they traded. I mean, you look at this profile, and this is the kind of guy they just mold and develop into a star. So, Zaire Hope, a name to know and a name to keep an eye on. Other names to keep an eye on in the system. You look at Samuel Munoz, outfielder, big 6'3" frame, a lot of projection, a good swing from the left side. He hasn't shown as much over the fence power as we thought he would, or at least I thought he would. That could still be coming. He's still young, 19. With the power, potential, he gets the ball to all fields well. Munoz could be a breakout this year, as is Oswaldo Osorio, 18-year-old infielder, signed in 2022. He had a really strong display in the DSL in 2022 and in the complex in 2023. He's already outgrown and grown past the listed 6'1" height, selective play discipline, high walk rates, high OBPs, with some pop too. Oswaldo Osorio, I'm going to keep an eye on there. One of my favorite pitchers I saw in the Arizona Fall League, Ben Casparius, insanely nasty. I know he was a mixed bag of results last year. He's got really good stuff. He made hitters look foolish, and he's one that they could develop. Neuroshindrick Martinez, if I'm saying the first name right. Martinez is another guy that's just looks like he's got the stuff to succeed and be a potential big leaguer one day. One to watch out for this year, especially as a young guy. He's 19, young 19 right now, athletic. Watch out for him. Gerald Perez, a shortstop in the system, another 19-year-old. They're chock full of young talent. As you've kind of seen the theme, the Dodgers do really well drafting, and they really knock it out of the park on the international side. So they have a ton of guys that you just look at and think, man, I think this guy might be something. Gerald Perez is one to watch there. So many names. Jose Ramos, I know, is kind of a little bit older, and some shine may have been worn off of him. He's interesting because he does strike out a lot, but he does have pop. Contact rates are very concerning. With Ramos, he's a hyper-aggressive hitter with a lot of tools to dream on, but he will need to make more contact to make the profile work. Other names that I like, a couple of guys that they drafted this year, from Dylan Campbell, Brian Gonzalez. I like Roel a lot. Peter Quebec, somebody to still keep an eye on. Damon Keith hit one of the biggest home runs I've ever seen in the AFL. Keith has got a really good tool set. And I know, like, Keith needs to make more contact. This kind of reminds me of the profiles that they have kind of and on the pass and have worked, like a James Alvin. Like Alvin makes a little more contact and is a little more disciplined, but Damon Keith, all the tools in the world there from a power standpoint. This system absolutely loaded. We could probably talk 3 hours about this system because it is just so full of talent. The Dodgers, there's a reason that they excel year over year. One is because they have money to spend at the MLB level. Two, because they've invested money very well on the scouting and development side. Three, because of that, they've drafted extremely well. They have hit the international market and done extremely well. And lastly, because this is the most desirable org to play in because of the things behind the scenes, the things that you don't see every day. The Dodgers, their player development is stellar, not only on the field, but off the field. They're very regimented in the meals the players eat. They have these guys on very good workout plans. This org just has it going on. And there's a reason that the Dodgers are so successful year in and year out, well beyond their payroll. The payroll is not the reason that they excel. It's because of all the things behind the scenes that they do, where they're investing the money, where other teams aren't. The Dodgers are an elite organization, and they have an elite farm system. I know none of these guys, you look at them and you're like, all right, they're not top prospects, like top 10 prospects. But the system is loaded. They find gems and develop gems every year, and they can afford to trade away players like this offseason, like Michael Busch. They trade Michael Busch, who's blocked in their org, and they get 2 high upside guys. They think they could develop into something even better than Michael Busch. You look, and there's one more name I want to hit on, which they did trade for Trey Sweeney. They were able to trade other guys like Yorbit Vivas in that deal. Vivas is a guy that they needed to add to the 40. All right, we'll just trade him. You get a Trey Sweeney type, who I really like a lot, and we'll talk about him just briefly before I get out of here. But there's other guys, like you look, and they can trade. They rain Don Coltons. Like, those guys you can just get rid of, and you still have a deep system. But Trey Sweeney, I do want to talk about because I think that Trey Sweeney is still pretty underrated. When you look at Sweeney's profile, he's did it all at Eastern Illinois. I know a small school, first rounder of the Yankees. It's like, all right, this guy, are we so sure about him? But the collegiate performance was off the charts. The data was off the charts. He makes a ton of contact, very selective, high OBP time. He made contact at 79% of pitches overall, which is a very good number, very low chase rates. And in the second half, the contact rate jumped to 84% overall. I would say an 84% zone contact. That was 84% overall. And he had a 286 batting average. You look at the rest of the profile. The power hasn't really come around like we thought, but he had really good college exit velocities. He hit 16 home runs in 2022 and 13 in 2023. I still believe the potential is there to tap into more power, but he has good stolen base instincts. He's a solid runner. He may slow down with time if he continues to fill out the frame. And the interesting thing is that, he's played good shortstop. We thought he was a second baseman. He's played a good shortstop as well. So I really like what I've seen from Trey Sweeney. I've seen him several times live now. And I think Sweeney's a very underrated asset in this org. I think I've hit on everybody at this point that's relevant. If I have not, feel free to comment. Obviously, there's a lot of deeper names. I think I have like 60 to 70 names in my overall top 1,000 prospects. It's just stupid how deep this system runs. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by what the Dodgers do. And their development, they do a phenomenal job. I've kind of oohed and awed over them enough today. We've reached the 11 o'clock mark Eastern time. Thank you for hanging out live with us. If you missed the show or you joined in late, you can find the show on YouTube as well or in podcast form. I'm going to fully have all the shows up by this week. Thank you for joining us today. It's been another edition of the Dynasty Dugout Show. Hope you guys have a great Wednesday. Enjoy your baseball this afternoon.